Hi, hope you're well and that your household is looking forward to obviously the ability to get out of our home and start to socialise again as we slowly reopen back to living a normal life. But as always, here is my update about what is on the Lane Cove Council agenda this Monday, the 18th of October. And quite a lot of motions actually being put forward by councillors. You wouldn't think there's an election anytime soon, but as I always do, as you know, I am a regular mover of motions at council meetings. So I've got two that I've put up on the agenda for Monday. One about Lane Cove North, very much my area, West Ward. I based off feedback from a recent survey we did in the area. A lot of people saying issues of just not having some local convenience shops in the area. So my motion is that council writes to all the remaining landholders who have not yet developed in Lane Cove North and to see whether they'd be interested in working with council to develop a little neighbourhood centre or neighbourhood shop so the residents of Lane Cove North can go and get some milk when you run out, as opposed to having to drive down to Woolworths or Coles in the village. So that's a motion I'm putting up. I'm also doing another motion which I've co-written with Councillor Strasbourg. We had a resident write to us very concerned over the month of some racist and homophobic graffiti that was written on one of our parks, and basically asked, given the kerfuffle of the last council meeting of the motion that was moved by the Liberals trying to pin it on a Greens candidate, some graffiti which was knocked back. The resident asked, said, well, why don't we make a stand and say that any form of discrimination is not accepted. So we are responding to that resident and we've put up a motion to that effect, but also to, just for council to promote its graffiti hotline, because council does a great service where when you report graffiti, they remove it pretty quickly. And also too, given some of the attacks we've had, there's definitely a trend of attacks that are particularly racist or homophobic in our area, unfortunately. So we're proposing that we reach out to our local area police command to see if there's any patterns that can be identified that may inform some education programs that council has, so we can target them better, because we want to have a community where we're tolerant and we can live harmoniously with each other. So they're two motions that I am involved personally with moving. Some other big ones that I think will have a lot of attention for people is the dog strategy. Based on previous meetings, council did not adopt their dog strategy at that time. Based on feedback, a lot of tweaks have been made to the strategy. So if you're particularly interested in the dog strategy, I encourage you to have a look at this council meeting and read through the dog strategy, and I definitely welcome your feedback. It is proposed that council adopts the revised dog strategy. I should say one of the other motions that have been put up by one of the other councillors is to actually create a dog advisory committee, just like we've got a bicycle advisory committee and an access and inclusion committee. I think a bit of a formal mechanism that residents who are dog lovers in our area can actually have a direct channel of communication with council where, as these advisory committees do, they spend a bit more time looking in issues on an ongoing basis and then provide some recommendations directly to the general manager, which is then shared with councillors. So that's another item on the agenda. Our local housing strategy. This is a particularly big one given the amount of development we've had in our area. If you recall, a few months back, council did endorse its own housing strategy. This is the first key document which is basically said up until 2036 we are not required to do any more rezonings in Lane Cove. And the good news is the Department of Planning, Industry and Environment has accepted our housing strategy. So basically now council can formally adopt that strategy and just put it on council's website as a formal document for our area. And some things that will come out of that is council looking at how can we get some more affordable or key worker housing in our area, how can we rejuvenate some of the medium density zones in our area, because one thing we know over the last decade, only about 1/3 of our medium density, which is things like townhouses and villas, has not been developed. So what are some tweaks that council could potentially do to help that, what's called the missing middle, just some lower density housing in our area? So that is in that report there. We've got our draft financials up on the meeting to be adopted. So that was a bit of a discussion for the last meeting. So that will now be public. So they're the main items that I can see through the agenda. As you know, yes, the election is on the 4th of December. And if you like what I've been doing, on the 20th of October, there's a link below. We're actually doing a policy launch about what I will be running again on as I seek re-election. And I'm very excited to share, if you are a resident of East Ward or Central Ward, I have some colleagues running in those wards as well. So we've got David Rowenfeld, who's been a long time supporter of me in my side quest of being a West Ward councillor and also in the state election campaign. David will be running as a candidate for East Ward. And I'm very excited that we have a resident, Kathy Bryler, who is a local architect, runs her own business. She served with me on the Access and Inclusion Committee on Council, and she's our candidate for Central Ward. So if you like what I've done, I think we've got some great alternatives for you to consider in Central and East Ward. If you're a resident of West Ward, I definitely appreciate your vote again on the 4th of December. But big one there is we'd love for you to join us on the 20th of October for an online Zoom meeting where we'll talk you through the policies that we're intending to run on based on extensive community consultation. We've done 2 lots of letterbox surveys in the last year. A lot of feedback's come back to us, and we've formulated quite a few policies that we hope will see a progressive Lane Cove. So as always, on any matter, please feel free to share your feedback with me, and I hope to see you joining us on the 20th of October. Thank you.